Hello and welcome to Mindful Living, where we explore the art of living with the intention, balance, and inner peace. I am Avik, your host, guiding you through conversations on health, meditation, mental well being, mindfulness, and the mind body connection. Each episode features expert insights to help you grow, heal, and thrive. So, take a deep breath, relax, and join us on this journey to a more mindful and fulfilling life. So, let's get started.
Hello and welcome back, listeners, to the Mindful Living podcast. Today, we are diving into a topic that so many women experience but rarely get to talk about in an empowering way: perimenopause and menopause. And trust me, listeners, today's guest has got some incredible insights that might just blow your mind off. Joining us is Johanna Swanson, a dynamic menopause educator, counselor, and coach who has transformed her personal journey through menopause into a mission to help women embrace midlife with vitality and confidence. Now, imagine combining the wisdom of psychology, the precision of quantum biology, and the rhythms of nature. It all aimed at helping you feel incredible at every stage of life. And we are talking about charge, finding balance, and turning what might feel like a roller coaster into a thrilling adventure toward a more aligned, vibrant self. So, listeners, I'm very confident you are going to have some great takeaways from this conversation. So, Joanna, we are so excited to have you here, and thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so Joanna, of course, before we dive deep into the topic, what for our listeners, if you would like to share, what was it about your personal experience with surgical menopause that drove you to pursue this path of helping other women?
Yeah, so when I went through surgical menopause because I have the BRCA gene mutation,
Mm-hmm.
that was at the age of 38. And I had historically been a very emotionally stable person, even through significant hardships in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and once I had my ovaries removed, I
Mm-hmm.
really, for the first time in my life, felt very anxious and depressed, and
Mm-hmm.
it was very difficult to feel. I had gone through some other experiences in my life where I had a little bit of depression, and it was normal because there were significant experiences and traumas, but to not have anything outside of myself influencing this anxiety and depression
Mm-hmm.
was really difficult, just knowing that it was my hormones. Um, and it was just so obvious to me that there are so many women suffering with mental health issues at any stage of life. And when we go to our doctors seeking support, the first thing that they tell us is to get on
Mm-hmm.
really strong medications like SSRIs,
Mm-hmm.
and when really the first line of defense should be to look at our hormones, because it was just so obvious to me that I knew all of this was just because my hormones were making me feel horrible. And and so when I went to my doctors, they weren't offering me any solutions. And so it just took me down a path to really do all of my own research and figure out how to help myself. And it's been many years of research and questioning and learning and lifestyle changes in order to feel whole again. And I just really think that all women deserve easy access to this information, and no woman should be suffering the way that so many women are, especially during their perimenopause and menopause years.
True, that is true. And that's really commendable that you figured out it yourself, doing extensive research. And I'm so really excited to ask you this question. Um, you have researched on the relevance and significance of quantum biology in hormonal shifts and changes during menopause. So, for our listeners, if we could make it more familiar that how quantum biology differs from the traditional approaches when we are interacting with menopause or understanding it.
So, quantum biology is the study of light, water, and magnetism, because these are the ways in which we get energy into our bodies in order for the mitochondria in our cells to function properly. And so, just like any system, anything, if you want it to work properly, it needs to have energy. And so, quantum biology looks at the energy in our bodies at a quantum level: protons, electrons. How are our cells getting the energy that they need to function? And so, when we look at our hormones, we have many different types of hormones in our bodies. Often we just think of our sex hormones, but vitamin D is a hormone. Cortisol is a hormone. Melatonin is a hormone, and leptin is a hormone.
Yeah.
Those three, cortisol, leptin, and melatonin, are what are considered to be master hormones because they play such an important role in the basics of all of our body systems and the way that they function. So for perimenopause and menopause, if those three hormones are not working properly and are not balanced and aligned, then all of our hormones downstream from those hormones can't function properly either. If we just look at cortisol and melatonin, they have a very important relationship because they are like night and day. They are opposite of each other. When your cortisol is high, it suppresses your melatonin.
Okay.
So, and so the idea is that if your cortisol is too high, then it's not allowing your melatonin to also increase, and we need our melatonin to increase every night as soon as the sun goes down in order to do all of the rest and repair that our body needs. In perimenopause, one of the first symptoms that you hear women having is this inability to sleep. And that typically stems from lower levels of progesterone, which is a hormone that really relaxes us. But you compile that with high levels of cortisol, and we get just very extreme disruptions in our sleep, which then make our cortisol rise even higher. And it's like a cortisol spiral where you're not sleeping well. It's increasing your anxiety. The next day, then you get more of the hot flashes. You get more of the brain fog, and it's just a downward spiral. So what quantum biology studies is how light, water, and magnetism are affecting our cortisol. The easiest place to start is with light.
Okay.
So we live in a modern environment where we spend the majority of our time in an artificial light environment.
True.
And this artificial light has an effect on our cortisol because artificial light is a very high in the blue light spectrum. And so,
Oh God.
I'm sorry?
And I was just surprised. I mean, the blue light, the exposure to laptop or mobile screens we have.
Yes.
Oh God.
So LED lights, fluorescent lights,
Mm-hmm.
our phones, our computers, our TVs, even a night light that you might have on in your hallway
Mm-hmm.
is going to increase your cortisol. And anytime you increase your cortisol, you're increasing your melatonin, you're also increasing your glucose,
Mm-hmm.
and you're dysregulating your nervous system. So, one of the easiest things that we can all do, whether you're in perimenopause or not, is to protect our eyes from artificial blue light any time of the day, but especially at night once that sun goes down.
Mm-hmm.
When your cortisol goes so high because you're exposed to the artificial blue light, then all of your other sex hormones, your brain doesn't care about your sex hormones when your cortisol's high. It's in fight or flight, and all it wants to do is survive. It doesn't care if you're fertile. It doesn't care if you're ovulating. It doesn't care if your hormones are super low and dysregulated. It's just in survival mode. And so we're living in an environment where our cortisol is continuously being spiked by blue light, and it's dysregulating all of our other hormones. And it's preventing our brains from getting the chance to rest and repair at night, because while you may be able to fall asleep at night, if you don't have enough melatonin, then you don't actually do any repairing of your cells.
Mm. I think that also causes a lot of aging, biological aging.
It does, 100%. Yes. So that's correct. If you're not having healthy doses of melatonin every night when you're sleeping, it does. It increases your biological age. And then just even physically, the blue light that we're getting on our skin from our devices damages your skin and makes wrinkles, and it dehydrates you.
True, that's true.
So yeah.
Wow, that's really really intimidating. It's really scary, and I think we all know the solution, especially when regards to exposure of blue light. The antidote is exposure to sunlight. We all know what to do, but how do you advise to incorporate it into our daily routine, especially for working women or the caregivers who have a
Mhm.
lot on their plate?
Yeah. So what I tell my clients and what we work on is having them wake up in the morning. First thing that they need to do is step outside,
Mm-hmm.
or at the very least, open their window completely open, not just open the blinds, but open the window so that they're getting the actual direct sunlight into their space, or they're actually just at least looking outside and getting those different frequencies of sunlight into their eyes.
Mm.
The reason this is so important is because your eyes are hormone making organs, and the sunlight, the full spectrum of
Mm-hmm.
frequencies that come from the sunlight, is the algorithm for your body to make the hormones that we need. If you are not getting that morning sunlight into your eyes, you're not making the hormones that you need to be healthy and balanced. I tell my clients their sleep routine starts at sunrise. It doesn't start 3 hours before bed. It starts at sunrise. They want to have a good night's sleep, then they need to wake up as close to sunrise as they can, expose their eyes and as much of their skin as possible, even if it's just pulling up your sleeves, and get that sun into your eyes. Definitely before you go looking at any screens like your phone, before you even turn on any lights in your home. Another thing that's really important is to, get outside as much as possible. So I remind my clients, in the 80s, people took smoke breaks at work. So let's take some sun breaks. If you
Correct.
can, go outside and eat your lunch outside. Um, Pull your sleeves up, pull your pants up. If you're home, pull your shirt up. Getting light on your abdomen is really important because the near infrared light can penetrate deep into your gut, and it helps with your gut health. It helps those good bacteria. So trying to get any sort of sun on our abdomen every day is really important. But just, make it a priority to get outside, even if it's 2 minutes here, 3 minutes there,
Mhm.
as much as you can throughout the day. And then it's also important to get the sunset light. Those frequencies of light at the sunset are sending signals to your body to start shutting down, to raise that melatonin, to slow your digestion, to
Mhm.
slow your system down so that you can get into rest and recovery mode. Clients who, maybe they're in their car when the sun's rising, as
Mhm.
long as they can just crack their windows just a little bit, they can fill their car with that natural sunlight, and that's enough for them to get the benefits and produce those hormones that they need. Same thing with the sunset sun. If you're in your car during sunset and your commute, just crack your windows and get that sun into your car, and it can have the benefits that you need.
Hmm. Wow, that's really, really profound. And in your study, you also mentioned about circadian rhythms. So, what
Mm-hmm.
role do circadian rhythms play in hormone regulation, and how might aligning with these rhythms ease the physical and emotional challenges of menopause or perimenopause?
So much of it, again, is that what's being driven by the cortisol.
Mm-hmm.
So when we there's something that's called pregnenolone. It's
Mm-hmm.
pregnenolone steal, and so pregnenolone is a precursor to our sex hormones, and your body produces a pregnenolone, and then depending on the environment in which you're in and the state of your body, if you the pregnenolone can turn into cortisol as well. And so if you're exposed to a lot of blue light, the pregnenolone, instead of turning into your sex hormones, is always going to favor towards turning into cortisol, because cortisol is what's going to help us survive. And so the pregnenolone steal is a really clear example of how high stress is hijacking our sex hormones, because that pregnenolone turns into cortisol instead of turning into our sex hormones.
Hmm. Great, great. And you have also spoken about reclaiming vitality during menopause.
Mm-hmm.
Practical strategies does this approach offer that women can incorporate into their daily lives? And when we had a previous discussion on our another show, BizBlend, you had mentioned about some great observations when you had when visited some tribal communities where women, they never had menopause or perimenopause. So, would you like to share that as well?
Yeah. So I had the opportunity to go and sit with the Arhuaco communities in Colombia, South America.
Mhm.
And they're very, some of the last indigenous communities, and they live without electricity. They live in their huts with everything that they eat is grown right there in their community. They have fresh water coming, from the snow that's a couple thousand feet above their village. And I was so excited to go and speak to the mamos, which are the spiritual leaders of this community, to ask them how they support their the females in their community through perimenopause and menopause. And he just looked at me and, shook his head and said, our women don't suffer through that. So, they definitely go through menopause, but they don't have all of the symptoms that we report in the West. And so when he first told me that, I thought, okay, well, I'm going to go talk to the women because maybe he just doesn't know. And so when I spoke to the women, they too said, no, they don't have the hot flashes, and they don't have the itching and the weight gain and the stress and the depression and anxiety. And when the more I learn about quantum biology and how important it is for us to live in tune with the cycles of the day and the night and the moon, and eating food that is grown in the same energetic field that our body is living in, not being stressed out because you're a mom working a full-time job, raising young kids, trying to participate in the community, just so much stress, and all of the artificial light at night, all of the dopamine addiction with all of our devices. They don't suffer the way that we do. I think a lot of the older generations didn't suffer as much as we do now either, because they weren't as, they didn't have all the cortisol hits. They weren't living with 5G in their environment. They had food that was grown locally. It was a different time and less stress and less environmental stress. So it was very eye-opening.
Wow. No, yeah, that is really, really eye-opening. And quantum biology, it might seem complex to many. So how can understanding it actually simplify menopause management for women?
Yeah. There's a definite trend that I see in women that are in perimenopause or menopause, and it's this yearning to slow down. It's this yearning to take better care of ourselves, to slow down, to say no, to listen to ourselves more. And I think, quantum biology, it's so simple in some aspects that it's so obvious that we would all be so much healthier if we just took time to go back to live the way our ancestors did, live in relationship to the earth, to grow our own food, to get away from this technology that consumes us in so many ways, that's ruining our human connection. That's, and so I think that if, as women in midlife, if we just listened more to the whispers that we're hearing, that we know that we really want, that we really want to slow down, that we really want to simplify, that then you can see more clearly how having natural light and not being on devices and eating food that's growing from the ground, having good water, it all just makes sense because it's just getting back to the basics.
Correct. Great. And you mentioned emotional mastery as a key to navigating menopause. So, how can emotional resilience and mindfulness shape our experience during this phase?
Yeah, again, I hear a lot of women, one of the more devastating parts of perimenopause and menopause is the feeling of their loss of resilience. And part of that has to do with when our sex hormones decrease, our brains are just more sensitive. Our nervous system is just more sensitive. It's just a reality. And therefore, we can feel less resilient. But with emotional mastery, you're basically, I help clients really deal with a lot of the grief that they don't even actually realize is there, processing the grief that comes with entering into a new stage, the acceptance that needs to happen, and breaking down the stigmas of what the media and society portray midlife and for a woman,
Yeah.
and really helping destigmatize that and seeing all of the power that we have rather than focusing on what we may not have anymore. For some women, they're grieving their bodies, their beauty, the way their brain functioned before, their sexuality. There are a lot of changes going on, even, their family units changing with children growing up or going through divorce. And so just really getting honest about the grief that we're feeling
Mhm.
and turning that grief into reframing it and realizing that the power that we have to take everything that we know and all of our experiences into this new phase of life where we get to do everything differently, and we get to put ourselves first, and we get to listen to what we want, and we get to fight back against all of these silly ideas that we've all been kind of brainwashed to think through the media about what it means to be a beautiful, powerful woman.
That's true. That's really very true. Lovely, lovely, Joanna. That was such a beautiful conversation. Um, you know, about menopause and perimenopause, and really your research, your insights. They're truly commendable. I mean, how much in depth you went uh, in discovering such a great marriage between both the world of quantum biology and menopause and perimenopause. It's really commendable, and I hope our listeners, especially the women who are listening to this, have lot to take away. So if they want to further connect with you and explore your resources, how they can find you.
Yeah, so my website is navigatemenopause.com, and my Instagram is navigate.menopause. And anyone who mentions this show, I have a free session added on to my 12-session program called the Master Menopause Method.
Great. We'll have the details mentioned for all of our listeners. And Joanna, thank you so much for coming on this show and helping us understand how biology, energy, and rhythms intersect. And it opens up new science backed strategies for managing and even thriving through menopause and perimenopause. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
And listeners, if this episode resonated with you, or if you know someone who might benefit from Johanna's expertise, please share this episode. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss out on our upcoming conversations focused on transformation, empowerment, and well being, and of course, mindfulness. Remember, taking care of ourselves, mind, body, and spirit is the most powerful step we can take to live mindfully. Until next time, keep living with intention and grace. Thanks for tuning in.